After the cornucopia of games we have yesterday, it's just a two-game slate in the NBA. A lot of question marks. Two teams that haven't played yet this year. We're still going to dig in and do what we always do here on the Splash Play Bets channel, our Splash Play NBA streams. We're going to compare my projections to some of the industry leaders out there, in particular, our friends over at Stokastic. Who do I have higher projected? Who do I have lower projected? We'll find that out here. We dig through the data. We'll also go over to Stokastic, run a sim. We'll compare that to my sim data as well. What my data looks like overlaid on a Stokastic sim. By this video, you'll know the must plays for today's October 23rd NBA slate. Let us get into it here. And hopefully it was a good slate for you guys yesterday. I got most of my money back thanks to, in particular, to Zion, not so much thanks to Cat, but I'll tell you what, Cat beat out Joel Embiid. So we got some good things going for us yesterday's NBA slate. And shout out to all you guys too that did watch yesterday. That was the most watched video on this channel yet. So shout out to all you guys with the like button. I appreciated all the kind comments. Less appreciative of some of the angry guys who find a new video on YouTube and then they just start yelling about how DFS is rigged. It's like, whatever. But I appreciate all you guys watching yesterday. And of course, I am here Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. doing these videos. So even though it is an NBA day today for me, or an NFL day rather, we're still on here, of course, doing the NBA content as best we can. And just to be candid, most of my bankroll does go to NFL on days like today where we have a Thursday night football, a showdown slate, but I am still putting in some action for NBA, and I'm going to try to make that action good here, and hopefully you guys will as well. Nikola Jokic, your top projected guy on the slate, 11.5 is the salary for him, 34.8 minutes, a nice minutes total as well. The big thing for Jokic at this point, we know what a killer he was last year with massive fantasy points minute averages. Overall, he had for himself 1.75 fantasy points a minute last year. Sometimes with certain guys out of the rotation would go even higher. We're talking 1.8, 1.9 fantasy points. For Jokic, he's a top projected player on the slate for me and Stokastic. I'm at 61 today. Stokastic has him at 60.4 fantasy points. Again, a two-gamer here. You want to get that projection total pretty high, and even if you are fading a guy like Jokic, like SGA, you're probably going to end up with a lot of lineups with at least one of those dudes because these are your only two players above 50 fantasy points, and nobody else really even comes that close. So Nikola Jokic in 47% of Stokastic's top 150 lineups, or according to their ownership data, rather, I'm getting him in 53% of mine. So I think Jokic right away, the first player we're going to look at on the slate to get to, and relative to matchup, relative to that total, hard not to like Jokic here today. But of course, a lot of the field's going to think the exact same thing that you and I do when we're building lineups. Number two, we have SGA, a 10.5 salary. So a player here that a little bit cheaper than Jokic. The projection-wise, I've got him about 7 fantasy points lower. Stokastic has him closer to 6 fantasy points lower than Jokic. Would say that out of the two, I would prefer to get to Jokic if you can. That said, again, a lot of people think the exact same thing. SGA, a bit of a downer of the first game, really seemed like the assist upside not being there is what hurt the fantasy outcome, in particular in the beginning. You also missed a lot of shots. I think for SGA, I always expect him to find his depth pretty quickly. He did find it in that game, putting up the massive scoring as the game went into extra overtimes. But for SGA, the big thing is that really no Caruso in this game, still no Jalen Williams. You're now consolidating production even more in a game where, or really a slate, where OKC's got the highest total on the slate, 119.8 implied points. The closest is Golden State at 117.8 behind them. So for SGA, I prefer Jokic, really have no issue if you do want to go SGA's way, though, because the projections certainly look fair enough for him. 5.1x value. I've got Jokic as a 5.3x value. So both guys, I think, rock solid. SGA, 42% expected ownership. I got him at 39. Lean for Jokic here, but both guys should still come up a good amount. I got Fistula Poop here, which was always a tough name to say out loud, but I do appreciate it. Got you in my ear, hosting an event again. Okay, hosted an event, and you're listening to me. I hope that works well. And for you guys that are members of the channel, we have had a few new signups. Make sure you do when you join the channel. Make sure you're on one of the Squirt Squad tiers if you're trying to get access to my data, and then just sync your YouTube to your Discord. Click the link in the description. You get added to the Splash Play Discord, and just make sure in your settings there's connected accounts. Just make sure your YouTube account is connected, and you'll be good to go. You automatically get access to my data sheet here that I show you, and if you get the other tier, the higher dollar tier, you also get my projections. You can export into an optimizer or the Stokastic sims, I guess, whatever you want. And shout out Braden, appreciate you being here as well. Appreciate all you guys watching live or after the fact as well. Again, really was shocked to see the amount of viewers we got yesterday, so hopefully I will do my best to live up to your guys' show of faith. Steph Curry, your number 3 projected guy, going to be much less played, 25.8% expected ownership. I only got 25. The projection at 43.6, so much lower than SGA. We're talking almost 20 fantasy points lower than Jokic, so relative to this slate, Steph Curry just does not look like as important of a play. Of course, we know how that goes when the ownership is flowing so easily to Jokic, to SGA. If you capture that upside, if Steph Curry has an outlier day today in a game where they are the number 2 total on the slate and Denver's defense maybe gets a little bit better. I mean, I would say he does get a little bit better. Trading Michael Porter Jr. for Cameron Johnson, or Cam Johnson if you're his friend. That's an upgrade, but Denver's defense was not very good structurally overall last year. So Steph Curry certainly can get going here. 9K salary gives you some upside, but the 4.8x value, it doesn't come up as much naturally, and that's not a surprise. Jimmy Butler, though, looks pretty good. He was a guy that snuck into a few lineups for me that performed the best for me on the last slate. A $7,400 salary as well in the projections. Not that far off Steph Curry. I've got him at 38.5. Stokastic has him at 38.2, so I don't feel too vulnerable here about my Jimmy Butler projection. 40% expected ownership for Jimmy Butler. He certainly, you get leverage if Steph Curry hits an outlier way that does pull production away from Jimmy Butler. But Butler has been a good producer since coming to Golden State. I think the price tag is more than fair at 7,400. He's in 40% of lineups. I got him in 35. I think that's about where he should be. And if he got his way into half my lineups, I really wouldn't be mad about it. He kind of feels to me like Austin Reeves on the last 2 game slate. The price tag just a little bit too low for a guy who's produced as well as he has. Nobody out for Golden State that matters. You got Moses Moody out, but that's it. But for Jimmy Butler, he produces in every category. The upside's pretty big, and God, he was hawking fouls like a motherfucker in the last game. So for Jimmy Butler, I think things look good at 7,400. Here's where things get weird for me on the slate, and I will just to take you guys back a little bit because I think it's really important with data to understand how it comes about. Sites like Stokastic establish the run, same thing. They really rely on a longer-term sample size of players and evaluating a guy like Andrew Nembhard based upon his entire career, how he's played, whatever. For Nembhard, he is a guy that he is absolutely crushed when you've had Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell out, and both those guys are out. Halliburton's going to be out forever. McConnell's going to be out like a month with a hamstring injury. But going back to last year, and the Pacers haven't played this year, so we haven't seen it yet in practice in a real way, a little bit in the preseason. Nembhard has averaged 0.95 fantasy points per minute, along with a 24% usage rate, 31% assist rate, court time without Halliburton, without McConnell, and I believe I also put on Miles Turner for that sample size. It gets a little bit better with Miles Turner on. The sample size gets bigger, and Nembhard's rates go up to about a 35% assist rate. The point, and it's actually something that my pal Josh Engelman talked about on Stokastic's NBA strategy show, which I was watching before here, I always like to take in other content people I think are smart. Nembhard becomes a different player when the lead point guards are out. He becomes the lead point guard when those guys are in. When Halliburton's in especially, he just becomes a defensive guy. When McConnell's in, he becomes more of the defensive guy. But for when those guys are both out, Nembhard becomes the lead point guard. You have some new guards coming in, guys like Talon Peter, which sounds like a Game of Thrones name, but he's somebody that had some decent minutes and decent results in the preseason. RJ Dennis can play some point guard as well. He actually have him at a decent producer for my projections today, but the minutes shouldn't be there as much. He's only projected to play about 5 minutes. There are other guards that they could go to, but Nembhard, they like Nembhard still gets regular minutes. Just he gets better quality minutes now that Halliburton's out. So I expect him to be the lead guard. You'll still have Mathurin taking possessions away. You'll still have Siakam taking possessions away. But the assist rate, nobody else in the team gets over 20% assist rate when you take Halliburton and McConnell off. There just isn't a point guard. It's Nembhard. So I'll play him a lot today. I got him in 71% of the sim, and that's with 3 uniques in my top 150. Fields at 30, but to me, I think Nembhard feels like a 2x stand on a 2-game slate for me. I just think he's a strong play at 6,400 if people aren't going to be there because they just know Nembhard is the defensive player. He does play well when you just take the point guards off. Pascal Siakam, I feel low projection-wise on with a 37.9 projection. Stokastic has him at 39.4. Again, I do feel like some of my projection is flowing Nembhard's way as opposed to Siakam, and I really wouldn't be mad at you if you wanted to play Siakam over Nembhard or with Nembhard. There's just a lot of possessions to go around when you are taking Halliburton and McConnell. These guys were the engines of the offense last year, and Halliburton, obviously tremendous success as we went to the playoffs. But now you're taking those guys out. A lot of last year, I did not play Halliburton often because you have so many dudes there that were crowding up the usage, crowding up the production. Now it's wide open because you're taking Turner out, going to replace him with Isaiah Jackson, who does some stuff but won't put up as many shots as Miles Turner does. You have Neesmith, who kind of relies on a guy like Halliburton to get him the ball, to get his shots. Matherin's going to hunt for his. Siakam's going to hunt for his. But it gets cleaner because it's only like a couple guys that can really get their own shots up. And that's Siakam, that's Nembhard, and that's Mathurin. So Nembhard, I think, is the better play between the two. Siakam, the less good play at 8,200. But certainly with 23% ownership for Siakam, he feels like a very nice tournament play, especially if people end up playing Nembhard like I will. Jamal Murray, surprised to see him be 42% owned with his 36.4 projection, but that said is a 5x value and change according to Stokastic data. I have Murray a little bit lower. Frankly, was not very good last year. That's still going to be a big thing. My projections will penalize him for until he shows some really good games and good upside this year. That said, for Jamal Murray, 7K salary, less ownership than, actually, no, more ownership than Jimmy Butler. I greatly prefer Jimmy Butler. I'd greatly prefer saving money and playing Nembhard. But, you know, if you want to fade my Nembhard projection, Jamal Murray is probably the guy that comes in instead. I still got him in 31% of my top 150. But just to me, a guy, it really depends. If Cam Johnson regresses more into the back, you know, just like not take as many shots or even close to it as to what he got in Brooklyn, then I think Jamal Murray would theoretically gain some more in projection that for me right now is flowing Cam Johnson's way. But Murray just wasn't a good player last year. He was a guy very rarely got on slates. The price tag I think is fair, but I really don't need to go nuts on Jamal Murray if he's going to be 42% owned and be one of your top 5 highest owned guys on the slate, basically. Chet Holmgren, 32% for the field. I got him at 17 here. Holmgren, we saw have a very nice shooting day last time out. You also are losing Alex Caruso, so maybe some more minutes kind of flow to Holmgren, to Isaiah Hartenstein as well, who directly lost minutes to Caruso in some of those small ball lineups. But for Holmgren, a guy that I think I need to see some bigger days for in the projection set for me to get there more in terms of just how he looks. For Holmgren, he does get some rate increases because of Jalen Williams not being out. But I got 17%, Fields at 32. My projection is also about 2.5 fantasy points lower. Cameron Johnson. So this is the big thing. That'll be another stand. I would say if you're going to fade my two biggest projection differences on the slate, it would be Nembhard and Cameron Johnson. I've got Cameron Johnson 6.5 fantasy points higher than Stokastic does. Michael Porter Jr. being gone opens up a lot of 3-point opportunities, a lot of scoring opportunities, and that's something that Cam Johnson has filled in pretty well. I do feel like my projection of points, I have Cam Johnson today for 18.4, Jamal Murray for 18.3. Feels a little bit aggressive, feels like I'm getting too much nets Cameron Johnson, and I think it's very possible that he comes back down to earth a little bit as opposed to the do whatever the fuck you want Haven that he had last year for Brooklyn, where you have not a lot of real talent. For Denver, you have guys he's going to defer to. You also got Christian Brown on the same team getting paid a crazy amount of money. Does that affect him getting some more shots up? Maybe. But for Cam Johnson, you now have the best assist man he's ever been around, and he's the 3-point shooter, and I think he's a more reliable scorer and a more reliable contributor than Michael Porter Jr. So the fact he's 5,900, I like the price tag a lot, and clearly he projects well for me with a 33.8 projection. That is 6.5 points higher than Stokastic. And really, if you want to get the best of what I'm saying here about Cam Johnson looking good, but you want to defer more to Stokastic, give him like a 30-point projection. He'll come up more for you then. You'll get him more in the fields, 20%, but you won't get him quite as much as the 53% I got in my top 150. Benedict Mathurin, there are some smaller sample size groupings where he puts up like 30% usage and a 20% assist rate. It wasn't enough possessions to feel great about, but that was what he did last year with McConnell off the court, with Halliburton off the court, and also with Miles Turner off the court. Mathurin should get himself the ball in his hands a lot. He basically can do whatever he wants in terms of the offense at this point because there just isn't that primary scorer. And the fact, too, that Mathurin, like his primary game is just being able to get his own shot and also produce at a high level. When the team is playing from behind, like that's the reason he had any minutes at all in the playoffs. Versus OKC, it kind of seems like a situation where Indiana should be outgunned. Mathurin's one of the ways they keep this competitive. So I like Mathurin. Didn't really get above the field on him, though. But I have him at a 5.5x value here. 32.8 projection is higher than Stokastic's at 31.1. But I still only got him in 45% of lineups. Fields at 43.5. So Mathurin looks like a 45% play. I'm happy to be a little bit higher than that. And Mathurin and Nembhard, Cameron Johnson, these guys to me should be core parts of what you do today alongside whatever pay-up options you get. Terry Rozier jammed Davion Mitchell into his 150 set last night sharp. Davion Mitchell went nuts. I did get some Davion Mitchell mentioned in the Discord. Unfortunately, it was a lot of lineups that did not have the best players, but I've had a good first 2 days. I got most of my money back yesterday, had a nice profit day one. NBA is tough. NBA is really tough. And I think the more we say that out loud, the more we'll feel at peace with how it can go. But yes, Davion Mitchell went bananas, and that's another credit to small sample size stuff. He has previously played pretty well when you take Tyler Hero off, all the various other Heat players that are gone now, and he fucking went nuts yesterday. A lot of assists. Jonathan Kuminga, $5,800 salary. So Kuminga's stats this year, 1 game sample size, but he rebounded a lot, had a 17% rebound rate. For comparison, last year he had 10%. He had a 30% assist rate as well. For comparison, last year he was at 15. He also shot less, kind of played like a different guy. Kuminga last year, of course, just gunning for his own opportunities. 27% usage rate. In the 1 game for the Warriors, he had an 18% usage rate. I don't know what this means for Kuminga. I don't know if it means he's going to be a more balanced player or if it's just one day where like he didn't get a shot as much. But that said, the field's at 28% Kuminga. I got 34. I don't want to be low on Kuminga because if he is doing something new, bringing something new to the table in terms of crashing the boards, adding assist upside, that's going to make his ceiling much bigger. The fact he's starting to, he has a 27-minute projection from Stokastic. Kuminga, I think, is a strong play, and I mean, he's playing, they're both, the Warriors and him are kind of behooved to get the most out of his production at this point because they want to trade him. He wants to go somewhere that wants him or have the Warriors commit to him. And with what 1 game is, and it is just 1 game, which doesn't matter, for everything. That's a different Kuminga look. Just assisting, rebounding, and not chucking is like, if he does all 3, he's going to be spike in like a meaningful way a lot this year. Top value plays, we talked about Nembhard already, getting him at 71%, Fields at 30. Again, really big stand for me on Nembhard. I could certainly getting less. The way my projections work, the assists that are now vacated by Halliburton and McConnell are flowing heavily towards Nembhard. I would have Nembhard putting up a double-double today with assists, or maybe just shy of that. But about 15 and 10 is what I have him at. I think for Nembhard, you could say that's a little too aggressive, but this is my take, so do what you want with it. Kason Wallace, 50% for me. Fields at 34. No Alex Caruso opens up minutes. Wallace is a Q tag, though. If he doesn't play, I think you get a lot more AJ Mitchell. You could also get more Aaron Wiggins, I suppose. But Wallace is out in the court a lot playing defense. His role should increase a little bit by not having Caruso out there. But Kason Wallace right now, 1 to watch, because if he doesn't play, Thunder getting pretty close to shorthanded, and that's going to open up a lot of stuff. If he does play, he looks like a pretty solid play himself at 4,500. Lou Dort, also a Q tag, I believe, as of last look. He's at 4,300. Guy, again, who plays a little more functional for fantasy basketball in the regular season than the playoffs, where he just doesn't get any shots up at all. But Lou Dort at 4,300, assuming that he plays. Another guy here whose minutes get more solid because they're not having Caruso out there. And also a guy, too. Baskets should flow a little bit more easily versus a Pacers team that is missing a lot. You're missing now the defense from Turner. You're maybe getting a little better defensively because you're not playing Halliburton or McConnell, and you're going to have Nembhard and Ben Shepherd out there a little bit more. Really a situation for Lou Dort where I think you get a lot of open shots today if he's playing, and maybe he knocks him down. If Wallace is out, get ready for 127% AJ. Yeah, I mean, AJ Mitchell hogged the ball a lot that last time, the first game of the season. He had a 38% usage rate and a 34% assist rate, so he was killing almost 80% of the possessions that he got, or that were available on the court while he was out there. AJ Mitchell is looking for his shot, and I agree. If you get Kason Wallace out, Mitchell will be, I mean, he should be chalk, but he's going to project really well for me. I did knock AJ Mitchell's projection down because just going off of this year's data, he was coming up like way too high. Cameron Johnson, talked enough about him. He looks like a top 4 value for me. And Jalen Williams with a Y, getting some extra minutes because Alex Caruso won't be out there. You should see some amount of Holmgren and Hartenstein, and then some amount of Jalen Williams subbing in for one of those guys, most likely Hartenstein. Jalen Williams at 3,200. I think he's got upside here. His projection will also look better if you get Kason Wallace out, just because of the way that works. I always like Jalen Williams as a tournament option when there's potential minutes to go around. 17.5% ownership seems honestly better than the 33 I have, but I think he's a play you want to get some of at 3,200 because there's just minutes to go around now with Caruso out, let alone if you get Caruso plus Kason Wallace plus Lou Dort out at that point, the math and the projections are all going to look a lot different. And everybody who does play for OKC is going to look infinitely better. Mathurin, Aaron Wiggins, not too far behind. AJ Mitchell, not too far behind. Wiggins could always spike in a spot, but it's important to keep in mind his playing time is the most fickle overall. But Caruso being out, there's a shot that if Wiggins plays well, he earns more minutes. I think it gets easier too with Kason Wallace. If Kason Wallace is in play, I think Wiggins has a pretty good shot to be guaranteed these 24.5 minutes that Stokastic has for him. In normal situations, those minutes can flow away. We talked about all the values here. I'll go to the game-by-game view, but at this point, I feel like I've already mentioned every player. One quick ask here, guys, and I really do appreciate you guys showing up in a big way yesterday. Let's try to do it again. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m., I'm doing these videos for the NBA. Of course, showing you all my data, my projections. I really just labor over, lovingly craft, but also showing you Stokastic stuff, showing you their sim without my part in it, so you get a good read of what people in the industry will be playing. And, of course, your support goes a long way for me here because we're trying to resuscitate this NBA channel, and I don't want to have the video suddenly get a lot less likes than yesterday. So please help me out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tune in for more. Of course, on days where there's no NFL, I think we'll do a little bit better viewership-wise. OKC, 119.8 implied points. Indiana, 112.3 here. Again, I feel like we've touched on basically every Thunder player. Today, I'm low on Hartenstein, which surprises me. His usage was really shitty in game one, only an 8.5% usage rate. But going back to last year, court time without Jalen Williams, he's been closer to an 18% usage rate. He also rebounds better than he did in that first game. I think for Hartenstein, I don't love being low on him because normally my projections reward what Hartenstein does. But at this point, a lot of the other Thunder guys look better. So, and Hartenstein's price tag at 6,200. It came up a lot from him being incredibly chalky on that last slate. So, Holmgren and Hartenstein, my two biggest Thunder fades. But certainly these guys, the bigs minutes get a lot more secure because not having Caruso. Like, they can't go small ball with Caruso, and that's how Hartenstein especially, like, he actively lost minutes to those Caruso groupings in the last game. Kason Wallace, we talked about. If he plays, he looks like a good play. He's in half my lineups. If he doesn't play, everybody else is going to look better, but AJ Mitchell in particular, the bigs, I think, yet even more secure at that point. Lou Dort, again, I could live or die without Lou Dort. I don't know. I don't really care much about him, but he's coming up at 43% of my lineups. Aaron Wiggins, always liked to play. He was a disappointment in the first game. Going back to him today would be logical, except that he's pretty chalky at 37% ownership. AJ Mitchell, 22% owned, had the big game last time out. He was playing like he was SGA when he was on the court, like he was hunting for his own shot, basically played the role the same way SGA does. I don't think that always holds, but it gets easier for him to kind of try to trot that out one more time here. You still have no Nikola Topic out there with his testicular injury. You have no Caruso today. You might have no Kason Wallace. There's a chance that AJ Mitchell might just get all the opportunity in the world. You can see here, 38% usage, 34% assist rate, 1.6 fantasy points a minute is what he had in that first game. That won't hold, but like if he plays bootleg SGA, it might end up looking pretty good for him at 3,800. Jalen Williams gets more minutes as well because of Caruso not being in. That said, again, a play where I don't think you want to go to him if you're playing Holmgren and Hartenstein. I don't think you really don't want to go to him. I think Hartenstein with him taking up two center spots for those guys that are competing for the same allotment of minutes wouldn't be good. But Jalen Williams can put a triple-double out of nowhere, and when you have vacated minutes, he's always a guy to consider. Usman Jang, Carlson, Barnheiser, Youngblood, these guys aren't coming up, but they might get a few minutes here. Not really enough to play, even on a two-gamer. Indiana, 112.3 implied points. Here's where things get weird because they haven't played a game yet to start the year. That said, Siakam is the guy I feel the most uncomfortable being low on. 19% exposure, Fields at 23. Do you think for Siakam, if my projections are wrong, Siakam might crush today? Or if just Nembhard fails relative to my projections, which is possible. But Siakam should have the ball in his hands a lot. Just how much he defers to Mathurin and Nembhard, lets them run their offense / Mathurin gun for his own shot. I think those are the things for Siakam that I can flow away from fairly easily in an 8,200. It's not a huge Siakam guy normally in my projection set. That didn't change, unfortunately. He just doesn't gain a whole lot from really all the guys who are out, but his rates don't jump up enough as relative to like guys like Nembhard and Mathurin to become different players. Nembhard and Mathurin, priorities for me. Nembhard, of course, one of the biggest stands of the day. Hopefully I've said enough about him. Aaron Nesmith, he might benefit from Nembhard playing pure point guard if Nembhard succeeds. Maybe Nesmith's projection's a little bit light for me, but 25% ownership, I don't know. I don't need to be much higher than that. Nesmith's going to have the hardest time finding his own shot now. But, good point guard play can still make him succeed. Just Nesmith. Yeah, Nesmith, not a guy I love in this kind of situation. Isaiah Jackson is priced the fucking moon at 5,500. He and Jay Huff should be in a pure timeshare, but neither guy's picking up a ton of ownership. Jay Huff getting 17 at a much lower price tag of 3,400. Jackson getting 6.6% at 5,500. They're just not really super integral plays. Though Jay Huff is picking up 17% ownership, and I actually got him at 23. So maybe if Huff picks up some steam, if he somehow gets a start for Indiana, maybe Isaiah Jackson, a vaguely interesting pivot off the bench. Or if Jackson starts, maybe just take a little ownership there because the Huff ownership will probably remain no matter what because he's at 3,400. Ben Shepherd benefits a little bit as well from not having Halliburton in, but he should be safely behind Nembhard in terms of getting a crack at being the lead point guard. And Jarris Walker, 3K salary. There's minutes available. Guys like him and Obi Toppin, like they can do more for sure. And they can also play the centers off the court. So that's something to note. I think Obi Toppin in particular, if he plays well, like he could get more minutes and then take some away from Isaiah Jackson and Jay Huff. But I know Indiana's really a mystery box at this point. Like besides, guys like Talon Peter, RJ Dennis not getting a lot of minutes, I really don't know what to expect from Indiana in terms of an offense. But what we saw last year from, the time period with no Halliburton, with no McConnell, it does benefit Nembhard, does benefit Mathurin, and, the opportunity is there as much as Siakam wants. It didn't really benefit him that much last year. Denver 116.3 implied, Golden State 117.8, so real competitive total here. For Nikola Jokic, I think we've talked enough about him. He's my top pay-up option on the slate. It should be everybody else's as well. Jamal Murray, happy to be low on him, but he's rarely, a good value. 7K salary, that price tag seems fair. Cameron Johnson, with how he played for Brooklyn last year, he should absorb a lot of production that Michael Porter Jr. leaves behind. I like Cameron Johnson a lot. That said, he certainly can regress into the wall a little bit because of the fact you're playing with Jokic, playing with Murray, playing with Aaron Gordon. Definitely a little mystery box to what he does here. Talon Peter is certainly a made-up player. It's a bullshit name, and I really, again, seeing Talon in particular does sound very Game of Thronesy, but no, he's a real dude, and he had one of the preseason games. He had a 9-5-4 and I don't know, 12 minutes or something, 15 minutes. Didn't play a lot of time and contributed in every category, so he's a dude that could be interesting when all the point guards are out, but you have Nembhard, you have Shepherd. Those guys should get your first looks at point guard. And even then, RJ Dennis is probably ahead of Talon Peter as well. Name my chunk Talon. It does. Yeah. Again, that also works. Honestly works better than a name for a basketball player. Aaron Gordon, 28% ownership. I'm getting him at 21. Not really a big anti-stand there, but certainly with this much Cameron Johnson, I have to have less of other guys. Christian Brown, I'm with the field on 33% for me, 32.9%. He got paid so much money in the offseason. He's a fine player as well. Really though, Cameron Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, and to a lesser extent, Jamal Murray, they're all competing for the same pool here. So if one of these guys is an outlier, one of the other guys probably comes down a little bit. If two of the guys are an outlier, the other two probably don't even get close to a winning lineup. Basically how it looks for me, I guess. Jonas Valanciunas, your new backup to Nikola Jokic. I suppose there's some world where he could hit because he produces so well in a few minutes of time. He's projected for 14 minutes here, and Jonas Valanciunas is now the best version of this Jokic backup, where we've seen DeAndre Jordan go nuts filling in for Jokic, playing the kind of lesser version of a Jokic role. Jonas Valanciunas playing a lesser version of a Jokic role, can be the best Jonas Valanciunas, and he was already a guy who averages 1.2 fantasy points per minute. So relative to a tournament slate where center here, there's not I'm not crazy about Hartenstein today projection-wise. Isaiah Jackson not doing it for me. I don't think Jonas Valanciunas is a crazy tournament option at 5% ownership. Probably wouldn't want to play him with Jokic. Maybe you want to play him with SGA. But yeah, you honestly might be able to play them both and it could work. Jonas, to me, just screams out as a guy that might give you 20 to 25 fantasy points in 15 minutes. Yeah, so that's that. Tim Hardaway Jr., not for me. Bruce Brown, not for me. Glad to see him back in Denver. Hopefully they'll get him back to usefulness relative to what he's been lately. Peyton Watson getting in. Cam Johnson feels like that mucks things up for Peyton Watson's growth and minutes potential. Just nobody else looks that great here. Your starting five are the main guys, even though Jonas I do think is a compelling tournament option. And last but not least, Golden State, 117.8 implied. Steph Curry, we've talked about already. I'm holding the hands of the field basically on him. Jimmy Butler, I like him more in my projection set, but only got 35% compared to the field's 40. Butler, though, strong play. He's been producing really well since he joined the Warriors, and I didn't juke his rates at all to reflect that, but he's actually been better than he was in his Miami days where he kind of lost motivation. Draymond Green, game one went absolutely nuts. He had a 48% assist rate, played really well for himself. Still a guy that I think projects well enough to get to. Got 27%, Fields at 24. I think the first game, though, a little bit of an outlier for production for him. Brandon Podziemski, Fields expected to play 30.5%. I got him at 24. He feels like the one being squeezed the most by Kuminga's ascendance. Still playing enough minutes, though. Projected to play 30 today. So Podziemski, who also thinks he wants to be better than Steph Curry. So let's support him in that, and I guess play him in about a quarter of your lineups to a third of your lineups. Jonathan Kuminga, talked enough about the fact that he might be a different player. You can see here, 17% rebound rate, 30% assist rate. Not the kind of things, 72% true shooting for Kuminga. Also didn't expect that. But it looked like a different Kuminga for one game. You know, the assumption of most rates and projections is that the player gets back closer to normal over the course of time. For Kuminga, we'll think the rebound rate and assist rate drops, but showing any potential to do anything besides scoring for Kuminga is massive growth for him. So Kuminga, I'm very comfortable being above the field on him. I think there's upside to be had here. In particular, when we get a day where Steph is out, Butler is out, Kuminga might just like go nuts. So intrigued by it. I think Hield will get steamed after that hot shooting game. Feels expensive. 77% true shooting, but it's all usage. Maybe, but at 5,100, he won't project well enough. So anybody using data shouldn't get him. I wouldn't chase it personally, but people might. Okay. And that's it. Guys like Will Richard played a few minutes. These guys down the depth chart don't seem to be that important to me. Gary Payton got barely any of this slate. Al Horford barely got any of, even though he's got a 22-minute projection. Nobody really seems to matter that much down the Golden State depth chart. All right, let's go to the Sims next. So we've seen what my data looks like. We'll see what Stokastic's has without my imprint on it. So let's build the sim lineup here. And guys, before we do that, please do show some love. Again, hit that like button, subscribe. It goes a long way for me here. I'm just one dude here. I'm trying to empower you guys to make good decisions, showing you the premium products, showing you my own projections that have won me a lot of money, but also it's just a process that I enjoy making NBA projections. Less so this time of year because it is hard to manipulate data across multiple seasons. But that said, NBA here, very fun DFS sport to play. And one that I hope you guys will get value out of this video every day. So show some love, subscribe, hit the like button. New videos every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. And of course, if you want to see all the data I showed you from Stokastic, it's 15% off, link down below. Just click the link in the description. Oh, this is yesterday's slate. I don't know why it's still giving me this. All right, redo that. Okay. God damn it. But yes, please do show some love, subscribe, hit the like button, and eventually I'll run the right sim and we'll be good to go. And again, Stokastic 15% off. Solver 2, if you want to check it out. As I mentioned before, and just be candid about my own process, when I don't have time to run a Stokastic sim, I'll just run my projections straight away in the solver. So, they both have their merits for sure. Run a sim if you have time. If not, use an optimizer. It's fine. That is, in fact, Bojack. That is a poster that says, it gets easier every day. It gets a little easier. It's the guy, the running monkey talking to him. But that's sort of my philosophy. Gets easier when you do this kind of content every day. I replied to you on YouTube, Wilder. So I gave you a very thorough explanation on the YouTube comments where you commented. But join the Discord. So click the link in the description. Make sure your YouTube is synced to your Discord account, and then you'll automatically get access to the channels that have it. So Wilder, because you joined the Squirt Squad VIP tier, you get my matchup sheet, and you also get the exportable projections. But just literally click the link that I gave you or the one in the description, and then you'll get on the Discord and just make sure your YouTube is connected there. It's in connected accounts in settings. Hopefully It's enough hand holding. I know people have a hard time with this stuff sometimes, but it should be fairly simple. But let me know. DM me if you have issues, like I also said in the comment reply I gave. So not to be smug. I try to make it as simple as possible, but I know sometimes it can be a pain in the ass with how Discord works. All right, your top lineups right now. SGA, Andrew Nembhard. This is just Stokastic data. My projection's not a part of it. With 25% to first place in the simulation. SGA, Andrew Nembhard makes it. Benedict Mathurin makes it. Jimmy Butler, Jalen Williams, Jamal Murray, Draymond Green, and Jay Huff makes it. So $50K in salary used. We are playing a lot of the Pacers I like. Nembhard and Mathurin coming in here. And you're fading Siakam. So top lineup works for me. Number 2 lineup, SGA, Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, Pascal Siakam, Jay Huff makes it again. Jamal Murray makes this one. Draymond Green, Hartenstein. So I will note these top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are all SGA lineups up top, fading Jokic. So it does seem like the sim has a little bit of an SGA preference. Number 3 lineup, SGA, Christian Brown, Aaron Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Williams, the center version, because the other one's not playing. Jamal Murray, Draymond Green, Isaiah Hartenstein makes this one. Boy, I'm going to be pissed if a day I don't have Isaiah Hartenstein projected out the ass is the day he actually wins money for everybody. Though he did make the winning lineup the other day. But that was just mostly because he kind of had to. Your number 4 lineup here, SGA again, Pajemski, Christian Brown, Draymond Green, Jalen Williams again, Jamal Murray again, Kuminga, Isaiah Hartenstein again. And number 5, SGA, Kason Wallace, Jimmy Butler, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams of the Y, Christian Brown, Pascal Siakam, and Jay Huff. So there we go. All right, good. I'm glad you figured it out. Sorry, I know it can be complicated. It's really much easier than it seems. Just click the link and make sure your YouTube and your Discord are connected, and it'll do it all automatically from there. All right, and it's also on Google Sheets, the same sheet you see me using here, basically. All right, top ROI players. Jalen Williams, the Y, the only positive ROI player on the slate. At 3,200, there aren't a lot of plays in this range you like. With Jay Huff expected to be a little bit owned, Jalen Williams perhaps a pivot to that. But no matter what the case may be, Jalen Williams is our top ROI player according to Stokastic's data. Number 2 is Jay Huff. Number 3, Aaron Wiggins. These guys are slightly negative, but we're mostly concerned with the directional accuracy of the sim and how these guys grade out. Jonathan Kuminga is at number 4. Isaiah Hartenstein at number 5. So Jalen Williams, Jay Huff, our 2 J's up top, both 3,400-ish, 3,300-ish centers. Jonathan Kuminga, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Hartenstein, your top ROI players according to Stokastic. Top exposed players, and this is with no uniques. Oops. As I said, this is with no uniques. We got Jalen Williams with the Y, 60. That is too much. That's too much Jalen Williams, but 61% Jalen Williams of the Y. Exposure fields at 17. Massive stand in favor of Jalen Williams of the Y. SGA, 59% exposure, fields at 43. So pretty big fade on Jokic here. Well, he's at 42%, so it's really not a fade. There must be some amount of lineups getting played with SGA and Jokic. Those feel like they'd be ugly on this slate. But SGA, 59%, fields at 42.5. That's about 17% expected leverage in Stokastic's top 150. Lou Dort, 51% exposure, fields at 39. So Stokastic Sims liking Lou Dort here, which good at his price tag if he plays. Aaron Wiggins, 50% exposure, fields at 35. A lot of ownership for a guy that bombed last time out, but going to him again when he was chalky last time out, I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And Jimmy Butler, 47% exposure in Stokastic's top 150, fields at 41. Kason Wallace, not too far behind. Kuminga, not that far behind. You're getting a lot of guys here above 40% owned, in fact. Your highest leverage plays according to Stokastic data, Jalen Williams of the Y, not a surprise. You're getting 44% more than the field. It's a massive stand in favor of Jalen Williams. SGA, 17% more in the field. Kuminga, 16% more. I think no matter what you expect of Kuminga today, 5,800 is a little bit too cheap for what he does. Whether he's scoring, whether he is starting to rebound and assist more. I like that they're above the field on him, and 44% seems like a pretty nice stand. Aaron Wiggins, 15% leverage, more than the field. And Jay Huff, 13% more in the field. He's in about a third of Stokastic's top 150 lineups. Negative leverage plays, Aaron Nesmith, you're getting 20% less than the field, barely playing him at 3.3% ownership, or 3.3% exposure, rather. Steph Curry, 13% leverage here, negative 13, that is. Only 13% exposure overall, so pretty big fade on Steph Curry, which does back out with how the projection looks. Cam Johnson, they are fading, so this will be one my way to get different from Stokastic users. Only 9% Cam Johnson in Stokastic's lineups. I got him a lot more than that. So I think if you believe that Cam Johnson asserts himself similarly to how he did in Brooklyn, if he is a better version of Michael Porter, I think he looks like a really decent play at 5,900. Stokastic, though, does not agree with me at all. Jarris Walker, 0.7% exposure, fields at 12. Not a crazy stand there, though he is minimum salary. And Obi Toppin, only 3% exposure. That's a negative 11% leverage. That's that. Feels like a possible full fade Pacers night to get different. You certainly could. I like Nembhard a lot. I think that he's pretty talented when he actually gets a shot. I think he's one of those dudes in the NBA where he's playing for the job he needs to have in the NBA, which is playing defense, shooting some threes, doing a decent job of that. But he's also a guy, like many players in the NBA, where when you take away those lead ball handlers, take away the lead opportunity, I think that he's going to pay off and be a competent fill-in point guard who's going to be a little more expensive as the season goes on. But, you know, that's my belief. Certainly, I think you can chop it up whatever way you want to. And ultimately, Indiana's total today, 112.3. It is the lowest on the slate. It is also lower than where they were a lot of times last year. Like, they were normally a team hovering around 120. They might try to slow games down more, too. Now they don't have Halliburton. So there's a lot of questions about the Pacers. Like, they're easily the biggest mystery box here because the entire team could crater, or, like, Rick Carlisle's such a good coach, like, they could still be competitive here, and I don't think it'd be the craziest thing in the world. I'll give you guys my splash plays for the day, which might be pretty obvious based on the video. But before I do that, guys, one last call to arms. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Again, really could not be more appreciative of you guys. It was over 160 likes yesterday, 1,600 or so views, which for a video that has basically like 4 hours of shelf life, really cool to see. So I appreciate that. Of course, I'm going to keep showing up and doing the work no matter what. My big belief is if I show that love back to you guys by trying real hard on video, giving you the best information I can, it'll all work out in the end, and that's what I'm going to keep doing here Monday to Friday, every day at 2 p.m. But support the show, subscribe, hit the like button, join the channel as well if you want access to my data and to support the show. Speaking of, Discord, $5 to join. If you want to join the Squirt Squad or the VIP tiers, you get the same data I show you here on screen, my own projections updated throughout the slate. Whenever there's anything important that changes, I put a notification in Discord. I also then immediately update the sheet at the same time. So I do have a little process that works pretty well for me here, and hopefully if you guys want to follow it along, it's a great way to support the show. And my projections are not usually so insane. They'll be a little more insane for this first week or two, but they're really close to market, but in a way where you do have some obvious advantages. And you guys might recall last year, there were players I was on like Miles Bridges, Quentin Grimes, Cat, that worked out a lot. The projection systems just weren't on the same page on, and that's just sometimes how data works. So my splash plays for the day, Nembhard, obvious. I'm confused by Stokastic giving you so much SGA because I still like Jokic. It might be more of an ownership reason, but I would put Jokic in as one of my splash plays. I just think it's a good spot for him, and he was such a killer producer last year. Certainly could have been because Jamal Murray sucked, but you know, that's a part of the equation. Cam Johnson will be another one for me today. Jimmy Butler, I'm not as high on as I would have thought. I won't say Kason Wallace, but if he plays, that's a guy I'll be above the field on. You know, and I'll say Mathurin too, even though I'm just basically with the field on Mathurin. I just like what the Pacers, I'm hopeful for what the Pacers will do without Halliburton, without McConnell, because they have guys that could fill in, and I think are just kind of waiting for this opportunity, basically. And it just wouldn't shock me. Like, I don't think the Pacers win tonight, but it wouldn't shock me if they're more competitive and if people just underplay these guys by a little bit because they think OKC is going to kick their ass. And, you know, that's probably a decent likelihood, but, you know, the total's only 7.5 in favor of OKC. That could hang into the fourth quarter, and it wouldn't be a surprise. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the NBA content on YouTube at Splash Play Bets. On Twitter, you can keep following along at Splash Play Pod, both NFL and NBA. Funnel through there. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, 2 p.m. then. Tomorrow, big day because 12 o'clock, my NFL Must Plays video on the at Splash Play Pod channel. 1 p.m. premium video. That's the goal, at least. 2 p.m. NBA video. So stay tuned for that. I'm on live before lock tomorrow for NBA too. So fucking pray for me. If you want to check out my NFL content, check that out too. I got a Stokastic live stream today, one on the Splash Play Pod channel. But I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll see you again tomorrow for more. So enjoy your days, guys. Good luck, and go NFL, go NBA. Let's make some money on the crossover day, guys. All right, bye-bye.